going to review the article about becoming an unfriendly state, South Korea-Russia relations, and the invasion of Ukraine. This article had 27 pages and was released on 14 October 2022, written by T&CIRB10903, a professor of national security affairs at the US Naval War College. This article begins with South Korea's response to Russia's annexation of Crimea as an important precursor to the invasion of Ukraine. It continues with the Moon administration's initial cautious response, and then it pivots to align with the action of United States, Europe, and others. It concludes with an assessment of South Korea's action along with the futures of Republic of Korea-Russia relations.
Annexation of Crimea. Moscow annexed Crimea in 2014. Vladimir Putin, Russian president, ordered Russian troops into the Crimea after the region declared its independence from Ukraine. South Korea supported a draft resolution from the United Nations Security Council at the time that reaffirmed Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity while proclaiming that the Crimea referendum on leaving Ukraine and joining Russia had no validity. The Republic of Korea government said that they will not recognize Crimea's referendum and Russia's annexation of Crimea. South Korea joined diplomatic efforts but did not participate in other measures to punish Moscow. These events put South Korea in a difficult position because Republic of Korea leaders had devoted a great deal of effort to growing their political and economic ties with Russia. President Park Geun-hye had launched the Eurasia Initiative, a far-reaching plan to establish energy, communication, and economic networks to link Russia, China, the two Koreas, and Central Asia. At the same time, Seoul joined the US coalition, so Park Geun-hye felt reluctant to participate in tangible ways to chasten Moscow. South Korea's restrained response was also connected to the North Korea problem. South Korea has sought its help in denuclearizing the North. If Republic of Korea-Russia ties are hostile, Moscow has little chance to push Pyongyang to denuclearize or hold back its political and economic support for North Korea. But these possibilities faded, making a choice. Assessing the South Korean response, South Korea need to choose between two strategies with different factors and interests in play after the invasion of Ukraine fought. The first approach was to continue the cautious hedging strategy begun in 2014, maintaining the hope that Russia would have managed the North Korea nuclear problem. The second strategy is entailed joining the United States, EU, Australia, Japan, and others more directly and forcefully confronting the Russia efforts to undermine state sovereignty. Despite on that, South Korea will be known as a free rider and less interested in contributing to a stable international order that is in South Korea's interest. Even if the Ukrainian conflict is far away, the war shattered whatever hope remained for Russian help and greatly reduced any perceived benefits of maintaining these ties for the sake of North Korean denuclearization. In addition, South Korea's participation in a strong international coalition in Ukraine may have a deterrent effect on Pyongyang because North Korea will be aware that any temptation against the South poses the likelihood that a broad coalition of states would come together to support South Korea.
Korea respond to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In 2021, South Korea began to respond to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. At first, Russia officially denied any intention to invade. Putin said these measures were intended to maintain peace and protect Russian security. But there were clear violations of Ukrainian sovereignty and international law. South Korea faced some difficult decisions in crafting its response to this crisis because they were used liberal democracy and proponent of international law. Every action or response of the Moon administration was cautious. most wrote citizens support Ukraine, and they respond with their wallets by donating over $3 million to the fund set up by the Ukraine embassy to furnish medicine and food to the Ukraine people. So revealed that it will stop financial transactions with the 7 Russian banks and their branches to remove them from the SWIFT network and ban the export of strategic items on the Commerce Department list. Russia start to have doubts about South Korea because of the action made by the Moon administration and think that South Korea still need Russia to deal with the North Korea. But that doesn't stop South Korea to go against the Russian invasion of Ukraine because they think action made by Russia is clearly violence of international law. Direct aid to the Ukraine. At the outset of the war, some states pledged direct material support to the Ukraine in addition to imposing sanctions to punish Russia. South Korea also responded to the call for direct support to the Ukraine, but it was careful and measured. South Korea has become the 6th largest global arms export. The Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs posted a video to its Twitter account listing 31 countries as partner, but South Korea and Japan were not on the list, likely because they did not provide lethal material aid. It believed it was meant to reduce the chances of complicating Russian relations. Even with Ukraine request to the lethal aid, the Moon administration still declined because it can give impact to the South Korea security situation. South Korea has its own dangerous and complex security environment in its own neighborhood. The other concern is the impact lethal aid will have on Russian ties. South Korea has been asked to contribute to the war effort more indirectly. It can be seen that South Korea take cautious action in order to maintain its relationship.
South Korea tries to maintain its economic relation with Russia, but with the pressure of its superpower allies, South Korea needs to change its course and alter its hedging strategy toward a more robust response to Russia's aggression. This statement is agreed because at the early Russian invasion on Ukraine, the current South Korea president UniSZA.This carefully made the decision to keep the relation with Russia as he tried to protect South Korea's economy with Russia. Although South Korea wants to protect its interests with Russia because the US is South Korea's biggest ally, they need to follow the constructive relation and social norms that they have already built for a long time with the US and other Western allies. So it can be concluded that the act of South Korea to impose or joint sanctions, whether multilateral or unilateral, was needed in order to maintain its relation with their allies and to show that South Korea is against any kind of war, although it needs to sacrifice its own national interests.